Hey people, welcome back to the channel where English is not just a subject, it's a story. If you're new here, hi, I'm your cool English teacher, and my goal is to make your syllabus feel easy, interesting, and actually fun. Today we are continuing one of the most beautiful chapters from your class 10 syllabus, A Letter to God by Gregorio Lopez Fuentes. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, pause this, watch that first, because today we are taking a closer look at the story. This part is all about themes, message, and those juicy literary elements that examiners love to ask. Also, don't worry, this is not going to be a boring lecture. This is going to be fun and quick, and by the end, you'll feel ready to crush any question from this chapter. And hey, stay till the end because I've got a really cool song recommendation for you. Trust me, it's going to give you major Lencho vibes. But before we dive deep into any questions, let's take a step back and figure out what really drives a story forward. Every great story has a heart, something that ties all the events together. Think of a theme as the heart or soul of a story, the main idea, the big takeaway, the thing that the author really wants you to feel or to understand. And in this one, the heart is faith. So let's start where the story really hits hard, with its biggest theme, faith. Because honestly, without faith, there would be no story at all. So, what do we actually mean by faith here? Faith isn't just a fancy word for belief. In this story, faith is the engine that drives everything forward. Lencho truly believes that help will come. He trusts that there's someone out there who will not let him down. Think about it. If Lencho didn't have this rock solid faith, he wouldn't have written that letter at all. The whole story would just end with the hailstorm, and that's it. But because he believes so strongly, he takes action. And here's the interesting part. His faith is so powerful that it even moves other people to act. The postmaster and his employees see Lencho's letter and they actually get inspired to collect money for him. That's the power of faith. It's contagious. So when you get a question about the theme of the story, remember, this isn't just about faith in God. It's about how faith keeps hope alive, how it pushes people to act, and how it connects humans together. Alright, so faith keeps the story alive, but here's where it gets really interesting. Faith isn't the only thing at work here. This story also shows us something about human nature. And honestly, this is where it gets a little complicated. So let's talk about our second big theme, human nature. Human nature is all about what people are like deep down, what we do, how we react, and what we believe. In this story, we see two sides of human nature. On one hand, we see kindness and compassion. The postmaster and his employees don't just laugh at Lencho, they step in to help him. They actually give him most of their own salary just so his faith stays unbroken. But on the other hand, we also see mistrust. Lencho, instead of being grateful, believes that the very same people who helped him must have stolen part of the money. This shows how human nature can be contradictory. We can be good, generous, and helpful, but also suspicious and quick to judge. This theme makes the story feel real because honestly, haven't we all been there, believing the best in one moment and assuming the worst in the next? So we've seen faith and we've seen human nature with all its ups and downs. But there's one more thing that ties this story together, something that makes it so powerful and memorable. Let's talk about our third and final big theme: hope and perseverance. Hope is what keeps Lencho going even after the hailstorm destroys everything. He doesn't give up. He doesn't sit around feeling sorry for himself. Instead, he decides to take action. He writes a letter straight to God. This is where perseverance comes in. Lencho doesn't stop at just hoping things will get better. He actually does something about it. That's such an important lesson. Hope gives us the strength to get through tough times, but perseverance is what helps us rebuild and move forward. By the end of the story, even though Lencho misunderstands who sent the money, his faith and hope stay unshaken. And that's exactly what makes the story unforgettable. So, there you have it. The three big ideas that make A Letter to God such a powerful story: faith that moves Lencho to act, human nature that shows us how people respond to need, and hope and perseverance that reminds us to keep going no matter what. And when you put them all together, you don't just get the story of one farmer. You get a story about all of us, about believing, acting, and staying strong even when life throws us a hailstorm. Which brings us to the core message of the story. A Letter to God reminds us that faith can be so powerful that it inspires not just the believer, but everyone around them. Lencho's letter moves the postmaster and his staff to help, proving that goodness still exists in the world. But there's also a tiny twist. Sometimes faith can be so strong that it blinds us. Lencho's suspicion of the post office staff shows that faith works best when it is paired with gratitude and trust in people, not just God. Alright, now that we have uncovered the heart of the story and its message, let's talk about something that teachers and examiners love: the literary elements. Think of these as the secret spices that makes the story so flavorful. Without them, A Letter to God would just be a plain story. But with them, it becomes unforgettable. Let's break them down. Let's talk about symbolism. This story is full of it and it makes the message so much stronger. First, the letter. This isn't just paper and ink. The letter is Lencho's faith written down. It's like he is talking to God the way a child talks to a parent. No hesitation, no doubt. And it's not just blind hope, it's action. By writing the letter, Lencho shows he believes help will come. Then we have the storm. It's more than just bad weather. The storm is life throwing its biggest test at Lencho, wiping out everything in seconds. It's a symbol of how quickly life can change, but also how those moments can make our faith even stronger. And finally, the coins. The money Lencho receives. They are like the proof that prayers work. But here's the twist. Because the amount is less, they also show that human help isn't always perfect. And that's why Lencho blames the post office and not God. He still believes God did his part. You can even spot smaller symbols too, like the post office employees who are basically humans acting as God's hands, and God Himself, who symbolizes ultimate justice and hope. Now let's look at irony, one of the coolest elements in this story. The biggest one is the situational irony. Lencho's faith is rewarded, he gets the money he asked for. But instead of feeling grateful, he blames the post office employees for taking part of it. That's ironic because the very people he doubts are the ones who helped him. Then there's dramatic irony. We as readers know that it was the post office staff who sent the money, but Lencho doesn't. That makes the ending both a little funny and a little sad. We understand the truth, Lencho doesn't. Finally, there's a kind of theme based irony. The story shows that faith can be so powerful that it moves people to act, but it can also blind us. Lencho's complete trust in God makes him suspicious of humans, which is ironic because the humans were actually part of the answer to his prayers. Alright, let's talk about imagery. Gregorio Lopez Fuentes doesn't just tell us it rained, he makes us see it. Remember how Lencho calls the raindrops new coins? That one line turns a regular rainy day into something hopeful and beautiful. You can almost picture the shiny drops falling on the field like silver coins. And finally, the setting. The entire story is set in a lonely house on top of a hill, far away from the busy world. That's important because it shows us why Lencho's faith in God is so strong. There's literally no one he can turn to. The setting makes his isolation and his faith feel even more real. See how each of these elements work together? It's like building blocks that create an emotional, memorable story, the kind you don't just read, you feel. Okay, it's your turn now. Here are three super important questions to think about. Trust me, if you get these right, this chapter will be crystal clear. For the first one, think about how the postmaster and his staff reacted when they saw Lencho's letter. Did they ignore it or did they do something? Why do you think they helped him even though they didn't know him personally? For the second question, focus on the ending. Why is it ironic that Lencho thought the post office employees were thieves? Remember, the irony is that the people he doubted were actually the ones who helped him. And for the last question, this one is a reflective question. So there's no right or wrong answer. I just want to know what you feel. Imagine yourself in Lencho's shoes. Would you be grateful or would you be angry like him? And why? Think about these three questions. And if you want to practice more, I've put some extra important questions in the description so you can try them out before your exams. Alright team, that's a wrap on A Letter to God. Pretty powerful stuff, right? Faith, human, nature, hope. This story really has it all, doesn't it? Before you head out, don't forget to answer the three big questions from today and check out the extra ones in the description to level up your prep. And of course, here's your chapter anthem, Hall of Fame by the script. It's all about believing so strongly that you make things happen, just like Lencho, who refused to give up even after losing everything. Until next time, keep the faith, stay hopeful, and maybe don't blame the post office too quickly. See you in the next class.